Follett. Here is Michael Follett. He is the founder and director of Outdoor Play and Learning CIC, a non-profit he founded back in 2012.
2011, I left the local authority.
Yeah,
left South Gloss.
Yeah, I first met Michael when you took me around, didn't you? You took me around a school in just north of Bristol. I
did, in Year 8.
It was such a revelation because I used to be a teacher. I used to do a lot of lunchtime cover when I did supply teaching when I did my master's degree, and I did so much lunchtime cover. And I went around this school with Michael and I was like, what have you done? It sounds different.
And the first thing you noted on, Kath, was the noise. You said the noise is different. The noise is not like a normal school.
Yeah. And now I know what the big difference. You looked around, there were so many different things, but now I've got schools that I'm working with that have also said it sounds different. I'm going to let you press on.
Okay, if you can put up the next slide. Lovely. Good. Right, I'm going to start. The whole conference is called Freedom, and I think that this relates us back to the heart of what OPAL is all about, which is play work, and the process of play being a process that is freely chosen by the child for the child's own motivations and reasons and the child's own self-direction. And at the heart of everything that we do in OPAL is this idea of the freedom to be a child within the period of life that is childhood. And all of our decisions and everything we do comes back to the sense of freedom to be a child. If you'd like to go on, Kath. Next slide. Good. So when I left South Gloucestershire Council, having experimented already for 11 years how to make play in schools better, I was just a little CIC with just me. We are now a team of 18 of us delivering OPAL all over the country. Every single one of my mentors is absolutely amazing. I'm not kidding you. We've got degrees in play work, we've got PhDs in play work, we've got lecturers in play work, we've got people who write national policy. They are just an amazing team. So whoever you end up with as your OPAL mentor, they are awesome. They are all awesome. Next slide, please. We have one really, really simple aim with OPAL, and that is every child in your school should have an amazing playtime every day with no exceptions. And I can honestly say, I went round Myatt Garden yesterday, we showed 2 MPs around a Platinum London school. They were just blown away. And one of the things they said, every child is engaged. Every child, it seems to be happy. There was no trouble. There was no falling out. There was a couple of fallings over, but children rubbed their knees. But coming back to the theme of freedom, every child was able to express the freedom of being a child and the freedom of playing. So the picture that you can see on your screen now is one of our London primary schools, Ivydale, and it's just a typical playtime. But every single child is having a brilliant time. Next slide, please, Kath. Okay, so OPAL is a not-for-profit. We're a community interest company, which means we invest all of the profit that we make back into OPAL to make it bigger and better and higher quality. And we are now reaching about 300 new schools a year. I can barely keep up with the number of children that have benefited. It's closer to 750,000 than 500,000 now. And we also do project work in Poland, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and just fielding an inquiry from Malaysia this week as well. Okay, next. So, as I've said, one simple goal, that every single child should have an exceptional playtime every single day. Next slide, please. Back one slide. Forward one slide. Okay, so why do we do this? Why should you do this? If you've started already, you'll be on that journey. If you've never done OPAL before in your school, why should you invest your time and energy and resources on these freedoms for children? Next slide, please. we have to have a very clear idea of what our responsibilities are as keepers of children. And these two slides show a contrast between people who look after another group of large primates, which happen to be chimpanzees, and it happens to be a zoo in Toronto. But the people looking after these large primates have a very clear responsibility of what sort of environment fits the needs of the species. We are looking after large young primates, and if we don't look after them properly and we don't provide for the needs of the species in terms of play and environment and culture, that is going to have a very detrimental effect on them. And sadly, if we look at many of the environments that we provide for the children we look after, they do not meet the needs of the species. Next slide, please. Another reason that we always talk about with head teachers and staff is just play takes up 1.4 years of a child's primary life, and what school wouldn't have a strategic plan for 1/5 of what they do? There's 3 areas of school life that take up 20%: maths, literacy, and play. So why on earth would you not have a strategic approach to 1/5 of what your school does? Next slide, please. When we do look after our children at playtime, it's interesting that across the UK, we spend roughly £750 million on the staff for lunchtime. And how are we supporting them? What vision for excellence are we giving them? What trade are we giving them? What craft are we giving them? What we should be doing is enabling every single member of the school workforce to use Playwork, to use knowledge of the 16 play types, to use knowledge of the play cycle, because that is going to make a huge difference to the happiness of children, the freedom of children, to the whole culture of the school. Next slide, please. What about Ofsted? What about the pressures on the school? We're really pleased to say Ofsted keep accidentally mentioning us. Now, by that, I mean that because we work really carefully with our schools to fit into the Ofsted's 3 I's framework, we give them all of the evidence on policy, all of the evidence on implementation, and lots of evidence on impact. And lots of schools' Ofsted reports are now saying children really enjoy their OPAL outdoor play and learning experiences because schools are able to very clearly demonstrate the 3 I's to Ofsted. Next slide, please. Lovely, thank you very much. What about evidence? If you're thinking of investing lots of time, lots of energy, lots of money, there's always this discussion about, well, is it evidence-based? Well, my first question is, what is the evidence base for what you're doing at the moment is effective? Because we go in and we survey all of our schools that we go in, and current practice is not, it's okay. Schools do have lots of problems, they have lots of challenges around playtime. There's no evidence at all to suggest that what is happening at the moment at school playtimes is particularly good, certainly not excellent, and doesn't really follow any path, any strategy. So if you want to see the evidence, go on the OPAL website and download. It's what it says on the tin, the case for play in schools, a review of all the literature. We were commissioned by Sport England, and it's been published in association with the University of Gloucester, and it's all there for you. Everything that you want to prove to say it's worth investing in children's play in schools. Next slide, please. So what do? We change your culture. We change the entire school community. We work with children, parents, governors, teachers, TAs, lunchtime supervisors, everybody. And we change your school forever, basically, so that from then on, you are an OPAL school, you're a play school, and you're part of this wonderful community that's building up across the country, and it's fantastic. Next slide, please. We provide lots of resources. We provide a course called Playwork Essentials to support all of your staff to understand how to make play better. Next slide. And publications for your parents and your staff. to show them how to understand the whole idea of Playwork. So OPAL works over a period of 18 months with schools through a series of meetings and audits and observations and support to take all schools from where they are at the moment to where they want to be and we want them to be, which is this goal of every child having an amazing and fantastic playtime every single day. Next slide, please. Okay, there's lots of other benefits. There's these sessions. We have monthly support sessions for anybody from our schools that wants to work with us. We have risk workshops and community. All of this, what we're trying to do is build up a community of schools across the UK, permanent community, who really want to invest in better and better play for children. Next slide, please. Our foundation, our philosophy, all of our thinking is based on this amazing profession called Playwork, which has been there in the background, working in adventure playgrounds, working in after school clubs, working community play ranges. And it has this wealth of knowledge that schools can benefit from so much. And when you understand the depth of play and the complexity of play and the wonderfulness of play, what we can do is bring that knowledge to your school community to help you improve the quality of play. Next slide, please. So, in conclusion, it is my belief that play is probably one of the most essential aspects of all primary pupils' mental, physical, social health and well-being. It's possibly the single most important process in childhood, and that most schools, not through any fault of their own, but through a historical gap, just don't invest in policy, in leadership, in training, anywhere near in a way that is sufficient to create an equal or fair play provision for their children. And that's a waste. That's a waste of everybody's money if primary school play isn't fit for purpose. Next slide, please. So, in conclusion, what we need to do is we need to look at leadership, being informed by Playwork values, being policy-based, being strategic in our work, and having a continuous cycle of evaluation and improvement to give children the freedom to be children and to find the play experiences that they need to help them develop every single area of their development and to be as happy and joyful and childlike as possible. And what we're able to do is support schools to do that.